Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malachei Halachim, Adonai Borechu.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Barry Nicholsberg, and you've tuned in to Temple Beth David in Snellville, Georgia. There are people here this evening for which we are certainly grateful. It's nice not to have to sing to empty pews, and we hope you enjoy your evening. If I seem just a tad out of sorts, it's because my mother-in-law's in the third row, and that's different. Thou shalt not be intimidated. Okay, I got it. I would like to thank Bobby Horowitz on the 12-string. He clearly is our leader of the band, and he's also vice president of this synagogue. And then there's Jim Murray and Heather Murray. Jim is soon to be the cantorial soloist here at Temple Beth David. I would like to thank Judy Kern, our board president, and the person who has made it possible for us to stream our services near and far. And I mean near and far. Then there's Denise Whitlock, who is our streaming specialist. She too is making sure that no matter where you are in the world, you can be watching and listening to what we're doing tonight. And finally, on the board tonight is my wife, Jeannie Nicholsberg. And I happen to know that if I get her a little annoyed, she'll just cut my mic. It's just that simple. And so I'm going to try and be nice for that reason, if not, for no other reason. I'd like you to think along with me. Where was I last Shabbat? Where was I physically and spiritually? Was I rushed, or did I savor the coming of Shabbat? What's happened in these past 6 days? They go so quickly, I can hardly take notice. What kind of person was I this week? Was I thoughtful? Was I superficial? Was I preoccupied? Was I appreciative? Did I laugh? Did I cry? Did I tell anyone how much I love him or her? Did I use my week well? And please tell me, what exactly does that mean? What lessons will I take with me into the future? As I enter Shabbat, I release the past week, its joys and its sorrows. I free myself from any misgivings or guilt. I am ready to look for new happiness and bring the best of me to new experiences during the week to come. At this point, we would normally light the Shabbat candles. But before we do, for those of you who may not have heard, a few hours ago it was announced that Stephen Sondheim passed away today at the age of 91. And he was instrumental in the Jewish community most of his life. And so for that we say Baruch Dayan Emet. It means blessed is the God of truth. And it's generally those words that are said the first time you even hear that someone has passed. Just immediately, Baruch Dayan Emet. And also this week, we lost a former member of our synagogue, Mickey Kroll, and we say the same, Baruch Dayan Emet. With that, Judy, are you ready to light candles? Please come up and light the candles, and I will get out of the way so people can see you.
please join me on the top of page 121? As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Would you please turn to page 138 in your Sidurs, Mishkan Tefillah, which, for those of you watching online, is available and accessible for you. And we're going to page 138 for L'chadodi. So we're going to welcome the Shabbat bride, just as we do every week. We consider Shabbat like a bride, and we welcome her in. And we will sing verses 2, 5, and 9. On the 9th verse, I will ask you, if you're not familiar with our custom here, please rise and face the door we came in. And if you're watching from home, same. Please rise. I'll tell you when. You won't miss it. And we bow to her at the last moment. And when we come back to the chorus, we come back facing straight ahead. So with that, let's give L'chadodi a try.
L'chadodi, likrat kala, panei Shabbat Kabbalah. L'chadodi, likrat kala, panei Shabbat Kabbalah.
Shamor v'zachor
Por echad, Yishmiyanu el echad, Adonai echad, U'shemo echad, L'shem yizmuz mi'eret, la 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 l'chadodi, likrat kala, panei Shabbat Kabbalah. L'chadodi, likrat kala, panei Shabbat Kabbalah. Toreri, Kiva orech, Uri, Shidadori, Kiva la l'chadodi, likrat kala, panei Shabbat Kabbalah. L'chadodi, likrat kala, panei Shabbat Kabbalah.
Face the door we came in.
Shalom, Ateret Balav, Gam Besimchat Olah, Toch Emunei Amsirula.
Let's bow.
Bohi kala, la 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 l'chadodi, kala, panei Shabbat Kabbalah. L'chadodi, likrat kala, panei Shabbat Kabbalah, la 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 l'chadodi, likrat kala, panei Shabbat Kabbalah. L'chadodi, likrat kala, P'nei P'nei Shabbat Kabbalah.
Thank you. Would you please be seated? On page 144, I'm going to ask Bobby if he would lead us, please, in the Reader's Kaddish. Amen.
Me'amad yivarach hirutei v'yamich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'gala ba'gala u'v'zman kariv v'imiru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach Ve'alam u'al me'almaya Yitbarach V'yishtavach V'yitbar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei D'Kudesha B'richu Le'lam Yinko Brechata V'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imiru amen.
If you would please rise, turn to page 146. We rise for the call to worship, the Baruch Hu. Ya la 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 la
La la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch
et
Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed.
Thank you. Before you sit down, would you please turn to page 148. At the bottom, I'd like to ask you to join me in reading, starting with Blessed Are You. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzavot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Harabim. I'd like you to keep those words in mind tonight, because the Devar later on will, in some fashion, refer back to that. Would you turn to the bottom of page 150, please? Join me in reading, starting with everlasting love. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our light, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Would you please turn to page 152 and join us for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kavod Lakuto, Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kavod Lakuto, Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. It occurred to me halfway through the Shema that I never put my tallis on tonight. So excuse me while I do it, because I should do it. There, now I feel like a cantor again. Would you please turn to page 154? You are welcome to join me as you wish as we sing V'ahavta. This is the chant directly from the Torah, using the same cantation that we use in the Torah. So it does sound quite different. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol miyodecha v'hayu advarim ha'eleh Asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibahata bam v'shiftecha b'veitecha u'v'levtecha v'derech u'b'shovtecha u'v'kumecha u'kshatam le'od al yadecha והיו לו תותפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני Adonai Elohechem, Asher hoseichem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. So we just did that in Hebrew, and I don't know how many of you will be able to interpret that, but the interpretation is directly below. You shall love Adonai, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. When we put on the tefillin, we say this prayer. This is it, start to finish. We shall love Adonai, you shall love Adonai, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Would you please turn to page 158 and join us in singing Mi Chamocha? Please. Hang on a second. Yes, Judy has reminded me that we need some instrumentation here, and we have all kinds of things in this bag. Judy, if you would, just if people want, thank you. If you would like a musical instrument, especially as we get into Mi Chamocha, which we have a couple of songs which certainly they're much nicer with percussion. Saying that, Andrew, wherever you are, I hope you're coming back soon. All right. You ready? Okay. Let's give it a try.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha benor kodesh. Nora tehilot oseh pele, Nora tehilot oseh pele. Malachut tova u'manecha, Ukei hayam nishei Miriam, Zei aliyanu v'yaru, Zei aliyanu v'yaru. Adonai imloch Olam ba'ed, Adonai imloch le'olam ba'ed. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar kodesh. Nora tehilot oseh pele, Nora tehilot oseh pele.
The next is a lullaby. And those of you who have been here before know it's my favorite lullaby. So we will do it first in Hebrew, and then we will do it in English. Bobby. Hashkivenu. Sing along, page 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu LaShalom, LaShalom. Yehamidenu Malachenu L'chaim. Ufros aleinu Sukkah Shlomecha, Ufros aleinu Sukkah Shlomecha. Amen.
And now English.
Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
Keep those musical instruments handy because we're about to do Vishamru, which you will find on page 162.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorati berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et la-Shabbat ledorati Dorati Merit Olam. B'nei Israel, Odit L'Olam. Vishamru, B'nei Israel, Et HaShabbat, Lasot, Et HaShabbat, Bedorati Merit Olam. Asa Adonai, et hashamayim v'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Israel et hashabat lasot et hashabat v'dorati merit olam. Uhayom hashvi Shabbat v'yimefash, Shabbat v'yimefash, Shabbat v'yimefash. V'shamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat v'dorati merit olam.
We are about to do the tefillah, which is the standing prayer. But before we do, I want to give you just a very, very brief history, and because I plan to change it this evening. It was always Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, time immemorial. And in 1976, a lady rabbi in Los Angeles added Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Not just to honor the patriarchs, but also the matriarchs. But we leave some matriarchs out, and we shouldn't. In the Devar tonight, you'll hear a lot about Tamar. She gave birth to the line that ultimately ended up with King David. And I think she should be honored and recognized just as the other women are. Now, I will also tell you that in 1976, it practically tore her congregation apart because they were so outraged that they would somebody would think of adding women. I'm going to add Tamar this evening. I plan to continue adding Tamar's name. And as we get further along in the Torah, those women who helped birth the nation of Israel really should be honored, recognized, and thanked. With that, would you please turn to page 164 and rise for the tefillah.
Adonai. Ananananana satartita. Ananananana ufiyagid. Ufiyagid tehilatecha. Ananananana Adonai. Ananananana satartita. Ananananana ufiyagid. Ufiyagid tehilatecha. Ananananana Adonai. Ananananana satai titach. Ananananana ufiyagid. Ufiyagid tehilatecha.
Page 166.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Elohei Tamar. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zochei Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'megula livnei b'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo b'Yahava. Melech Ozer u'Mashiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, v'Yetzrat Sarah. 168. Atah Gipor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakal atarav le'oshiha, Mashiv haruach u'mori hagashem, Mechakel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somez noflim v'rofeh cholim, Umatir asorim, Umchayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umidomelach, Melech memit, Umchaye, Umatzmiya mitshua, V'ne'emanat alecha yod ha'akol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye ha'akol. Page 170. Atar kadosh, v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha, Selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh. Please be seated. Let me take a moment to just let Judy know, as president of the synagogue, that if we get flack over adding tomorrow, I will feel good about that. Our worlds are busy and noisy. Traffic jams, horns blaring, cell phones ringing, text messages buzzing. Too often we hear without listening. Let's take a moment to embrace the gift that only the quiet in this sanctuary and in our own minds can deliver. I invite you to join me in praying silently. Kimbach, Vitorum Ekeha, Mozushar, Deracheha, Darkei Noam, Vekor Netivoteha, Shalom, Ashivenu Adonai, Elecha Nashuva, Kadeshemenu Kedem.
We've come to that part of our service where if you turn to page 371, you will find the Mishaberach, a prayer for those who we're praying for their healing, not just their physical healing, but their spiritual healing, their psychological healing. However one needs this prayer is for them. If you have people you would like to add to this week's Mishaberach list, you're out there in Etherland somehow. Please type those names into the chat box, and my beloved bride will read them.
Maya and Sophia Dickens, Cameron Turner, Rosa Dubois, J.J. Roach, Jody Comfort, Ellie Freed, Shannon Pointer, Rabbi Ron Blooming, Susan Ellers, Bobby Crone, Larry Crone, Sandra McElhanan, Ann Olin, Susie Horowitz, Wendy Fine, Yvonne Kroll, Barbara Yarborough, Arlene Conley, Irene Namer, Sam Namer, Don St. Clair, Lainey Roan, all those affected by COVID-19, Don Copsey, Penny Elliott, Eddie Young, Tanya Hurst, Lisa Miller, Michael Lowry, Mike Roth, Dennis Sadler, Lisa Ann Gaston, Lashonra Galloway, Margrietta McCarthy, Patty Beeman.
Thank you. Jean, do you have any names you would like to add to this week's Mishaberach list? Okay. Barbara? Rosa? Any names you'd like to add to this week's Mishaberach list? Rob? Bill? Barbara? Jackie? Person I don't know.
There is.
We look forward, we all look forward to getting to know you, but please join us for the Mishaberach, found on page 371. Oh, wait, stop. I didn't add my names, nor did I even ask you. Bobby, please.
Susie Horowitz, Andrew Wheeler, Edwin Speck.
Jim?
Misty Kreider, Debbie Weldon, and Meredith Murray.
Wendy Fine, Kenny Woodruff, Andrew St. Clair, Shelley Perkle, Nancy Galbraith, Robin Van Loo, Heather Murray, Margaret Pennington, Joanne Stein, Julia Hampton, Kevin Middleton, Brenda Gibson, Mickey D'Amato, Peter Yarrow, Anya Polara, Marie Plakos, Joe Vargas, Jen Kirchhoff. All of those who have been affected by COVID-19, whether they were the person who was directly affected or family of the directly affected, we pray for all of those people as well. Page 371, Mishaberach.
Bekor havecha leimotenu.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mehor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Yes, I forgot to add Patrick Collins to my list for the Mishaberach. Patrick is the officer this evening who is keeping us safe, because there's way too much anti-Semitism and we need someone to keep us safe. At any rate, Patrick, I apologize for not adding you initially, but I think we've covered it. Good. As you may know, I'm a paramedic, and as a paramedic, I have one rule, only one rule. The person with the gun makes the rules. Say no more. This is a parsha, a part of the Torah that we all know. Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. We know the story. We pass it down from generation to generation. And yet, we continue to read it. And we read it because we owe that to those who come after us. This parsha is pretty confusing. It's got two stories running simultaneously. Now, I told you that we had a young woman named Tamar, who is one of the people I would like to discuss this evening, and then I'll focus solely on Joseph. But Tamar was married to a fellow named Er, E-R. He was Judah's son, first son. And Er was killed by God because he was wicked. Part of his wickedness was his refusal to have intimate relations with his wife. He said, well, she's so beautiful. If I do that, she won't be so beautiful. And then Judah married her off to his second son, Onan. Now, why do I stop at Onan? Because when my father, may he rest in peace, was born, his mother named him Onan. And he hated that name. I don't know why, but he did. He hated it. So his parents said, okay, what would you like to be called? And he said Asher, which is one of the 12 tribes. And thus his name was changed that very moment. So anyway, Tamar marries the second of Judah's offspring, and he has the same response. And she's really getting tired of this. So one night, he also is killed by God for his wickedness. Anyway, one night, she dresses up specifically to trick Judah. She does a good job. She dresses as a prostitute. he has been out working in the fields, and he thinks, well, that seems like a good idea. And one thing leads to another, and she's giving birth to twin sons who become the progenitors of King David. And so we will add her to our list of those we really like. They made a huge difference in our religion. Or did they? The second part of this evening's Devar, yes, is a story that you know. It opens with Jacob favoring his youngest son, and Joseph has an ability. He can interpret dreams. And you know how it goes. The story is pretty straightforward. His father gives him this beautiful coat made of many colors. His brothers are just incensed by it. He was also fairly arrogant. He knew what his dreams meant, and he would tell his brothers, and he told his brothers in this that, yes, I dreamt such and such, and one day you will bow to me. And they said, are you out of your mind? So they didn't like him very much. They threw him in a well. They wanted to kill him. One brother said, no, we're not going to do that. And one thing leads to another. He's in jail in Egypt. Pharaoh's having dreams. And the baker, or was it the butler? I think it was the butler, informed the Pharaoh that there was one fellow in prison who interpreted dreams. That's as far as this story goes this evening. The question I have for you is, whose fault was it? Who owns the fact that Joseph was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and ended up in a prison in Egypt? Whose fault is that? Was it predetermined? I don't know how many of you have seen this movie. It's called Closing Doors, I think? Sliding Doors? Anyway, it's a story of a woman who runs to catch a subway, and in one version, she misses it by a second, and in the other, she gets on by a second. And you watch these two people, two entirely different lives, for that split-second decision. 1 second can change our lives. Who does that? Is it God? Is there some master plan? Maybe so, but maybe not. We have to take responsibility for our actions. We can't just say, well, God made me do that. You know, that was part of the master plan. I'm not guilty. You take it up without an eye. Would never say that. Well, if you're Jewish, you might. But we can't ignore our own responsibility. We have to be cognizant that our words and actions mean something all the time. Every minute. There are scholars who have said, oh, it's absolutely Joseph's fault because he was tormenting his brothers. He should have seen it coming. There are those who say, look, Jacob is at fault because who in the world would know better than Jacob that family trouble follows him around? He and his brother Esau were at each other's throats. He left, he escaped for 20 years to try and avoid the wrath of his brother, who had very good reason for not liking Jacob. What if it is actually God's plan? We could believe that. Well, I'm here today because God wanted me here today. Seems simple enough. Does that mean that I can drive any which way I want? Because it doesn't matter. God's going to protect me. This very issue was a huge problem in World War II. Jews throughout Europe said, if God is on my side, who on earth should I fear? We have to take responsibility. The story of these two people who fall into quicksand, and one says, I'm done. That's it. He drowns. And the other, very slowly, arduously, days on end, he struggles to just reach a few more inches to land. God looks down and bends a tree branch to him, and he grabs it. Story is, God helps the person who helps him or herself. We have to take responsibility. So yes, I think it was Joseph's fault. Yes, I think it was the brothers' fault. And yes, I think it was Joseph's fault. Why? Because had not all of those things come into play, how would Joseph have ended up in that prison? How would he have interpreted dreams? How would he have saved an entire nation from famine? Amazing events unfolded. You know what they are. I'm not going to repeat them right now. I want to know if there's meaning and purpose in these events. And it all depends on how we tell the story. Not just tonight, but every story. Shabbat Shalom. So, I'm going to ask you in a moment to stand for the Aleinu. Bill, could I ask you to join me on the bema so that we can open the curtain and then close everything when we're done? Bill Kern is working his way up here. Thank you. Please rise. Page 586. Just draw that back. So. There you go. Great. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol latet gedula liotzeh breshit. Shelo asanu kigoye haratzot v'lo samanu k'mishpechot hadama shelo sam chelakenu kahem v'goralenu kechol halona v'anochnu korim ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא בנות השמיים ועושה הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושינה זו בכהן מרומים הוא אלוהינו אמת מלכנו Mitzlato, Kakatu, Betorato, Yadata Yom Behashivota, Elevabecha, Ki Adonai Hua Elohim, Bashamayim Nimal, V'al ha'aretz, Mitachat Eino. Page 588. For you spread out the heavens and established the earth. Your majestic abode is in the heavens above, and your mighty presence is in the loftiest heights. You are our God, and there is none else. In truth, you are our sovereign without compare, as is written in your Torah. Know then this day and take it to heart, that Adonai is surely God in the heavens above, and on the earth below. There is none else. Page 591. Haya Adonai Lamelech HaKoretz Bayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo Please be seated. When COVID-19 first started taking the lives of people, I felt we as a congregation needed some response to it. And I began chanting El Malei Rachamim for all the people who died within that week from COVID-19. 775,000 Americans have perished. Tens of millions have perished around the world. And now they tell us there's something new, Omicron. That's what it's called, Omicron. To me, it's, oh my God, because really, we're going to do this again? I can only hope people will take every possible precaution to stay healthy. With that, for those who have perished in this past week, including Mickey Kroll, who did not die of COVID, and Stephen Sondheim, who I believe did not die of COVID either, but they will be remembered this evening in El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Baromim Hamtzei Menucha Nichona Tacha Kanfei HaShekhinah Im Kedashim Atiharim Kezohar Harakia Mahasirim Lanishmot Mickey Kroll, Stephen Sondheim. Yakireino Shalchol Le'amam Bal Harachamim Harachamim Yastir ותירם בסבתיה כנפיו לעולמים. ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתם. אדוני הוא נחלתם. ויענו בשלום על משכבם. ונאמר אמן. Turn to page 598. As we prepare to read the Mourner's Kaddish. Mickey Kroll and Stephen Sondheim are in the Shiva list within the first 7 days. Are there any others who should be named in the first 7 days? Then the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days. We have lost within the past 12 months these members, family of members, friends of members, we include them all. Richard Eggers, Joel Kellner, Daniel Jacob Horowitz, Emilia Gress, Marcia Manishin, Irma Schiller, Phyllis Blooming, Daniel Joseph Middleton, Larry Kramer, David Yarborough, Sylvia Cart, Rossi Davis, Laura Rusniak Rosen, Louis Jutzi, Michael Bernard, Annette Carter, Edna Dockerman, Robert Diskin, Erwin Finkelman. Are there any other Yortzites? Please. Thank you. At this time, this particular week, we also remember these 5 who passed in this particular week. They were members, friends, relatives. Philip Berlin, Doug Fletcher, Mac Freed, Arthur Levitt, Maurice Rich. Are there any other names? I ask you as a congregation of one to rise and support those who are in mourning. Together, we recite the words on page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah b'alma tivrach chivutei b'amlil malchutei b'chayachom u'v'yomechom u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'amei amaya. Yitvorach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shemed kudesha baruchu le'elam min kol b'chata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata damiran v'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, uyasa shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and all Israel. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated. We have a few more pieces to get through, and then we will call it an evening. Osa Shalom. For those of you who have not been with us before, we sing it 6 times. Every time it gets faster. There is a chorus, there's the harmony, and you can pick any one you want and sing along with us, please. This will be found on page 647. Page 647 in your books. Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom, Biromah, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'al Kol Israel, V'yimaru, Amen.
Get up a little bit.
Oseh Shalom, Biromah, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'al Kol Israel, V'yimaru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, Biromah, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'al Kol Israel, V'yimaru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, Biromah, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'al Kol Israel, V'yimaru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, Biromah, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'al Kol Israel, V'yimaru, Amen.
Last time.
Oseh Shalom, Biromah, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'al Kol Israel, V'yimaru, Amen.
Thank you for joining us on that. We've come to this part of announcements. So if Jeannie, Denise, or Judy have any announcements to get us started, please let us know.
Please continue to read your emails for announcements and event details. The Sisterhood Walk is tomorrow at Lenore Park. Menorah lighting Sunday for the first night of Hanukkah. See your emails for details on that. The Interfaith Hanukkah celebration on the last night of Hanukkah, December 5th. Again, check your emails for details. Tuesday, November 30th is the deadline to submit nominations for the Rabbi Selection Committee. Please contact Ruth Ann Bowen if you are interested. There's going to be a joint sisterhood congregation session on Sunday, December 12th on situational awareness and countering active threat training. It's presented by Neil Rabinowitz and Jimmy Horn of the Secure Community Network. Join us and learn techniques to ensure your safety in today's world. We want to thank Deputy Collins, who is watching over us tonight.
Are there any other announcements? Okay. I would like to make an announcement that wasn't planned, but I was given the best possible early Hanukkah present. And I want to tell you what it was so you can share with it. I had the opportunity to speak with Peter Yarrow a couple days ago. He sounded just like his old self. And we chatted for quite some time. I think we were on the phone for about a half hour. He just sends his best to everyone here at TBD. He thanks us profusely for including him on the Mishaberach list. He will stay there for some time, but it was wonderful to hear that strong, clear voice again. With that, I will ask you to rise as we conclude with the priestly blessing, the Yivarechecha.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May Adonai bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai pano elecha v'yishmerecha.
May Adonai shed light upon you and be gracious unto you.
Adonai pano elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May Adonai's face be lifted unto you and grant you peace.
Lecha shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for being with us.